بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته
وعليكم السلام.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. In the last lesson, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we started talking about the inner etiquettes of worship. We mentioned khushu', presence of the heart, humility, awareness of the majesty of the Lord while in prayer. Today, inshallah, I'll talk about 3 more inner qualities or inner etiquettes of the heart to observe when we are approaching worship, especially salat or prayer. The first one I'll talk about is tranquility. Tranquility is one of the most important qualities of the heart that we need to have when we are praying or we are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by this I mean the tama'nina, that when they perform worship, they need to perform this worship with tranquility of the heart, peace of the heart, and peace of mind. Because if someone approaches salat, approaches prayer with a busy heart, with a restless, distracted heart, the worship that they're performing will not be so effective. It will affect only so much. The point behind the repetition of the dhikr, the point behind the repetition of the remembrance of Allah, repetition of supplication, repetition of reciting the Quran, repetition of salat, of prayer, is that actually with these things that we say, these words that we say, we mold our heart. When I say Allahu Akbar, Allah is greater, I know that Allah is greater than anything. Allah is greater than anyone. Allah is greater than my own ego, than my own self. Allah is greater than anyone I fear. Allah is greater than anything I love or I'm attached to. I know these. But I repeat Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar with attention, so that I make my heart be convinced that yes, Allahu Akbar indeed. And so I'm teaching my heart, and my heart is learning this dhikr, this remembrance of God, to the extent eventually that what? That my heart would be the first thing remembering Allah before my tongue. And my tongue only follows my heart. And this is what Imam As-Sadiq Salamullahi alayhi in a narration tells us. He would say, فَجْعَلْ قَلْبَكَ قِبْلَةً لِلِسَانِكَ. Make your heart the qibla for your tongue. Do not move it except by the signal of the heart, the agreement of the intellect, and the satisfaction of the faith. So the worship that we perform, the salat that we do, it should really start from our heart, not from habit, mechanical habit. Our hadith tells us about the importance of this inner tranquility when we approach salat. We are recommended, for example, to recite Quran with tartil. Tartil, meaning what? Slow and deliberate and thoughtful recitation. Why? Because this would allow us to understand more. It would allow our hearts to be influenced more. This is why it is recommended that when we recite Quran, we recite it with a sad melody, sad voice, beautiful voice. This is where it is recommended that when we recite du'as, people who recite du'a at the mosque, they need to observe this as well. Why? Because this is how we are naturally. Our hearts are affected by sad voices, beautiful voices, sad melodies. And we need to cultivate that whenever we are in a gathering. And this is something that is very important, we need to pay attention to. The Holy Messenger of God tells us in a narration, مَنْ قَرَأَ الْقُرْآنَ وَهُوَ شَابٌ مُؤْمِنٌ اختلط القرآن بلحمه بدمه ولحمه. Whoever recites the Quran while young and faithful, so the young brothers and the young sisters, whoever recites the Quran while young and faithful, the Quran becomes mixed, mingled with his own or her own flesh and blood. Why? Because when you're young, your heart is less distracted by the worries. Your heart has the ability or capability to focus more, to be influenced more. And so the words of the Quran would affect you more deeply than when you are older. And this is where it's a great opportunity for the young people. Seize this opportunity to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that the Quran gets mixed with your being. You grow up walking the Quran, living the Quran. This is your chance now. Don't miss it. Don't miss the train. A narration that would say A hadith from the Prophet would say, مَا مِن شَيْءٍ أَحَبُّ إِلَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Nothing is more beloved to Allah than a deed done constantly, even if little. When there is something that you're consistently. When you're consistent about something, even if it is little. For example, every day I wake up, I say, Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh 70 times. Or for example, every day I pray 2 rak'ahs extra. Something that you consistently do, Allah loves it. Why? Because this would give you a higher chance that it would mold your heart, it would shape your heart, it would affect your heart. So that your heart is learning this dhikr and this worship. So this is the first quality. That is, come to worship with tranquility and peace of your heart. The second very important quality or etiquette of the heart that we need to have when we are coming to Salat is to protect our heart from the whispers of the shaitan, from the distractions of our own negative thoughts, of our own egoistic thoughts. I hate this person, for example, or I'm thinking badly about that person, or I'm envious, I envy this person. Now, these kind of whispers or sicknesses or distractions, we need to purify our hearts from them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, what? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. Allah describes the believers that they are guarding their prayer. They're constant in guarding, in preserving their prayer. Preserving the salat, yes, means that you pray on time. Excellent. You pray it correctly. Yes. But also it can mean what? That you preserve, you protect, you guard your salat and yourself in salat from the whispers and the distractions of the shaitan. We know that we are made of a body and a soul, right? We know this. We're composed of these two elements. We know that if we want to nourish our body, we need to give it food, nutrition. We know if we want to nourish our soul, we need to give it what? Knowledge. We need to seek knowledge about the deen, about Allah. We need to seek virtue, akhlaq. And we need to do worship. If we neglect these things, our soul will be starved. It will not grow. And similarly to the case that when you eat food, very nutritious food, but if you mix it with toxins, that nutrition will not give you the effect that you're seeking, will it? It will not nourish your body. Your body will be probably poisoned. Similarly with worship. Similarly with the spiritual growth. If you allow this satanic, demonic, evil thoughts from shaitan and yourself to be mixed with the salat that you do, with the seeking of knowledge that you do, studying hawza, studying Islamic studies, for example, with the takbir, tasbih, reciting Quran, reciting supplication, if you don't purify your heart from these toxins of the thoughts of the shaitan, the worship will not influence you. The worship will not help you, will not affect your heart appropriately. How many cases do we see scholars, students of deen, maybe, they go to moral degradation. They still, for example, they do some sins. How many times we see this? How many times we see worshippers, great worshippers, they wake up for Salatul Layl, for example, reciting Quran every day, doing a khatma every month or every week or so. But still you see that they are tainted with maybe pride, with arrogance, with these sicknesses of the heart, with envy. And so we need to purify our hearts from these thoughts. Purify our minds as well from these whispers of the shaitan, whispers of our own selves as well. There's some recommendations I'll mention very quickly, five recommendations inshallah. How we can help ourselves, we can guard our hearts from corruption of these whispers. Number one is to take the spiritual nourishment from the right sources, from the Messenger of God and the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, because they are the source that would teach us the right deen. Without any innovation, without being tainted with any ego or any misinformation. They are the fountain of the knowledge, the fountain of the spiritual nourishment that we need. We take it from the right sources. Number two is that we seek Allah alone in our spiritual journey. We seek Allah alone. When you're coming to Salat, you think, am I doing it for the sake of Allah, or for something else? Or for my own well-being, or for my personal, for example, peace. I want to be happy, let me do it. Before coming to the mosque for Fajr Salat, ask yourself, keep yourself in check. Why am I doing this now? Am I doing it because actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes me to pray in the mosque? Am I doing it because Salatul Jama'ah, congregational prayers, is something that's so beloved by Allah? Excellent, go. But if you realize that actually, no, I'm going to the mosque now so that people see me, So that people show, or so that I can show people that, well, I am someone who cares about Salat. So that my image, thank you very much, Habib. So that my image in front of the people is a pure image. So that my business works better when people see me as a mu'min in the community. Don't go to the mosque. Don't go. Because if you go, you are digging your own trench, your own spiritual grave. Until you actually sit with yourself for a few minutes. Purify your intention. Say, I'm doing it for Allah. There's no reason that I do it for someone else. Allah Akbar, right? Allah is greater than any reputation I'm seeking. It is Allah who deserves by priority anything that we do. Purify that intention. If it is pure, go. If it is not, don't go. Keep yourself in check. Number 3, never despair. Never despair. Don't think that I can't really overcome the whispers of the shaitan, the whispers of my own self, that I'm envious to this person, I hate this believer. Never give up. Allah says that none despairs of Allah's mercy except the disbelieving people. Okay? Because despair leads to spiritual laziness. This is what happens, and we need to avoid that. And this is obviously shaitan's favorite place for you to be. Number 4, monitor your soul like a physician. Like a physician. Okay? Monitor it. As I said, watch your intentions. Before you do anything, be watchful about why you're doing what you're doing. Just like a watchful doctor. Examine your intentions and make sure that you step on your ego. You do things for Allah, not for your own self. Number 5, seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seek refuge in Allah. Seclude yourself with Allah. Withdraw to solitude with God many times. Cry before Allah. Weep before Allah. Beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you and support you. Say, oh Allah, I can't do this without you. I can't do this on my own. Oh Allah, I need your help. You're the most merciful. You're the most capable. I'm a weak person. I can't overcome these whispers without you. And I can't come to the salat with a tranquil heart without your support. So seek the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the second point. That is, we need to clarify, purify our hearts, our minds from the satanic whispers, or the whispers of the shaitan, whispers of our own egos as well. And the last point I want to mention, as an important etiquette of the heart when we approach salat and prayer, is that we approach worship and prayers with a sense of energy, with a sense of joy, with the delight of our hearts. We need to come to salat with enthusiasm. Because when you approach worship, any act of worship, Quran, dua, dhikr, with enthusiasm, your heart opens. It is like when you're about to meet with your beloved, someone you really like, you really love. When you're about to meet with them, how excited would you be? How present and focused would you be when you are talking to them? You make sure that you actually are so presentable. You make sure that you look okay. You make sure that your moves are good, are okay. You make sure that you're aware of what you say. You're aware of what you do. If you're saying a story, you make sure that you're focused. You say the story from the beginning to the end. You're focused on what you mean to say. You're focused on the other person. You don't allow yourself to be distracted. Same thing with salat. When you know that you're about to approach or you're about to speak to the one that you love, to the one that you long for, then you actually focus on every word that you say. Your Fatiha, when you recite the Fatiha, you understand what you are saying. You're speaking to God. You're talking to God. You're watchful of your own self. You're watchful of what you are doing and saying. So we need to approach salat with this what? Excitement, joy, delight of our heart. And if we force our soul, if we don't have this, looking forward to the worship, if it is mustahab, for example, if you don't feel like it, if you don't feel excited about it, then avoid it. Because this eventually will create, if you force your soul, it will create aversion from worship. It will start being distracted or actually not liking worship. Because the spiritual nourishment, it affects more the worship, the virtues, seeking knowledge. It affects you more when you actually do it with cheerfulness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that what? وَلَا يَأْتُونَ الصَّلَاةَ إِلَّا وَهُمْ كُسَالَى. Criticizing those people who come to salat in laziness. We need to avoid that. We need to avoid that. Another verse says, لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى. Do not approach prayers while you are intoxicated. Some mufassirun explain intoxicated as lazy. Okay? So, Don't be lazy towards worship. And if you feel you are lazy, obviously I'm talking about the mustahab, okay, the wajib, you need to do it. You need to teach yourself constantly, consistently. But when it comes to mustahabs, for example, if you don't feel like it, if you don't feel that joy and excitement, avoid it until you have that excitement. Obviously, don't let yourself, don't dump yourself. Say, well, I'm not having this excitement, so let me not do anything. No, this is where you go and seek knowledge. This is where you go and listen to lectures. This is where you go and read books. You seek knowledge that would actually what? Energize you, motivate you to actually approach Salat with this excitement. Understand what this Salat is. Understand and read about how beautiful a feeling it is when you actually are present with your heart in the Salat. It is sad that you leave this life without having tasted this beautiful taste. That should excite you. Oh, this Salat is a great thing actually. I'm looking forward to it. So don't neglect yourself, okay? Energize yourself. Bring that energy, find it. But if sometimes, for example, during, let's say, Laylatul Qadr, if you don't feel like you want to do so much, don't do so much. Don't do so much. Don't force yourself and your soul. This is what Imam Sadiq says. Do not make worship hateful for yourselves or to yourselves. The Messenger of God would say to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, this religion is strong, so advance in it gently and do not make the worship of your Lord burdensome on your soul. Don't overburden yourself. Imam al-Askari in a narration would say, when hearts are active, fill them. When you feel you're excited, you feel the energy towards worship. Yes, recite Quran, recite juz's, recite a dua, Abu Hamza for example. You feel that energy, you feel that connection with God. Take advantage of it. Ride that wave. And when they feel aversion, let them rest. If your heart doesn't feel like it now, don't force yourself. Don't force yourself. Do something else that would energize you. Don't force yourself to, for example, recite a long dua. Recite one page, a few sentences that would connect you to Allah. Wallahi, Allah would love it more than you sitting and reciting the whole dua when you're not present, when you're not understanding what's happening, what's going on. And the worst is that when you create this thing in your heart that would make you avoid dua next time. You don't want to come because you feel like it's useless. I'll mention a beautiful narration from our sixth Imam. Imam Sadiq would say, when I was young, I exerted myself in worship until my father told me, my son, what am I seeing you doing here? You're exerting yourself. Allah loves a servant, is pleased with a servant. Sorry, when Allah loves a servant, He's pleased with the little from him. Don't exert yourself so much. When Allah loves you, Allah will accept little things that you do. So find the things that Allah loves you for, and then you're safe. You don't have to exert yourself so much. We need to observe balance at all times. Balance towards our hearts, and balance towards our body, balance towards our life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshaAllah, that He may grant our hearts the tranquility of His remembrance, that inshaAllah He would make our souls pure from the whispers, and that our spirits, inshallah, are filled with joy of worshipping Him or in worshipping Him. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد